Here we are again, the five of us. Hopefully Azariah will join us shortly. Today, let's talk about opening again and getting into our heart space. So if anyone's called to open this particular call, let me know. Otherwise, I will lead us back into getting into our hearts before we start our conversation. Anyone? Okay. So for those watching and for those that are on the call right now, I invite you to close your eyes and breathe a little deeper and a little slower. And as you do, focus on your breath as it enters you, enters your being, as it animates you. And as you focus on this breath coming in and out, focus on the area of your heart. Your beautiful, magnificent heart. As the breaths go in and out. And as you focus on your heart, think of a renewing emotion like compassion, gratitude, love, joy. Continue breathing a little deeper and a little slower, and focus on the area of your heart as you do that. And with that renewing emotion, feed that medicine to yourself first. Then slowly radiate that renewing emotion, whether it's love, whether it's gratitude, joy, whatever it may be. Slowly radiate outside of you in your immediate environment. Slowly moving further and further out until you are the whole universe. And it's just a matter of a thought, and you're there. And when the right time is for you, slowly open your eyes and come into this now space. And here we are, back again in the sacred circle. First of all, welcome everyone again. I hope you've had an incredible 2 weeks. I want to kind of unload a little bit, because what I've been noticing specifically this past week, and I'm really interested to hear from you guys, is what is going on with the energies that are coming into our planet right now. The emotional stuff that I've been personally noticing is really off the hook. It's been like a roller coaster of emotions personally, and really shedding, and it's part of what I want to talk about, really shedding and urging me, almost pushing me to look at any unresolved shadow stuff as well. And so I want to hear your perspective. What have you been noticing the last 2 weeks? Because when we started that circle a while back, I think we're in our 4th week now, so that's 8 weeks ago, or thereabouts, 16 weeks ago, something like that. It didn't feel to me as intense as it feels right now on this planet. So I'm opening it up to whoever would like to go. What's been going on for you guys?
I'd just like to say quickly, Aziz, there have been at least 3 people in the last week that have come to me with huge dark night of the soul type experiences that they've shared with me. Since our last meeting, we've had full moon eclipse in Cancer. There's been a lot cosmically going on. You're right, it's all around us, and it's mirrored in our personal, it's mirrored in our community, and it's mirrored all over the planet. There are things that are cosmically going on that have never happened before in the history of the planet. And I'm not an astrologer, but we can check into that. It's plain to see what's going on with Saturn, Jupiter, and lots of other fun things going on. So you're right. It's absolutely hardcore. It's begging us to deal with our shadow.
Yeah. Have you noticed that within you, David? Have you noticed that? We've all done work on ourselves. I know that we strive to do work at our own pace. But what have you noticed within your own self as these planetary alignments, retrogrades, and all that comes with it? Have you noticed anything specifically happening within you as far as emotionally goes?
I haven't had any more or less of my own personal work going on, but the work that I do on a daily basis is, I think an average person would look at it and say, at the minimal, it's intense,
right?
And it hasn't stopped. But there's been nothing even more extraordinary.
Right. Okay, fair enough.
Jesus, I think it's a great way to open this up, because it's almost like when we spoke about in our last session about surrender and what we had to go through, with all the debris that's coming up. What I've realized just in a personal ascension and looking at the planetary ascension is 2020, 2020. It's a reflection of all of our inner shadows that are being brought forward to surface. And it's interesting right now that outwardly there's so much that's being exposed, and there's so much that's being revealed. And because it's being revealed, it's also showing within us our shadow aspects. The things that are crumbling on the outside are also crumbling within. And I feel this has been our hugest time to express. That's why this group is so special, because we get to express each what's happening within us. And as we keep expressing, we're seeing all the ranges of this expression, from the anger, from the fighting, even the light community, and the different beliefs, the different levels. And as all these beliefs and conditions are being dissolved and dismantled, it's actually within us, it's doing the same. And personally, what I've recognized these past 2 weeks is just the amount of frustration, the amount of anger, the amount of impatience within myself, because of the limitations that sometimes I pick up of what's happening on the outside, and I see through it. I see the powers behind it, and I know that this year is a year of personal empowerment. And as we're empowering ourselves, sometimes I get really angry at the limitations and against no beliefs. I'm just really upset about these masks and these covering of our faces and our ability to listen to these wars of political nature and all of these ideas that are happening. And personally within me, I feel there's that one chaos that's happening. But on the other side, there's all these powerful opportunities to connect with the light codes that are coming in, connect with these eclipses, connect with the energy of the ascension of the earth, because what I remember back in the 80s when Barbara Marx Hubbard said there's going to be a new earth. There's going to be a new earth when those that choose to move into love and be from love and live from this fifth dimensional frequency are going to be able to cross this bridge, we call it the Rainbow Bridge, and live from that place. But there's also going to be the old earth that those that choose to live in fear are going to struggle through all the limitations that, no offense, that media has been kind of limiting based on the coronavirus, based on the fear, based on the political statements of what comes out, or even some of the protests that's been happening since early June of what's moving forward. So in my personal ascension, it feels like there's been an eruption of energy coming out, and I feel it's only going to get more intense. And for me, I feel it's that personal journey to stay in love, honor the shadow, honor what's happening, respect it, but really like embrace what's happening before us, because it's, I mean, we're going to look back at this and be like, wow, what is really happening? There's so many micro stories that are happening, and it's really up to us to maintain our frequency of light and love to hold that, because when a planetary ascension, we recognize it, but individually, we know that these conditions and programs have been already placed into the story that we were born into. And now we're breaking that story down so that we can live to the fullest of what we are. And I've just noticed that kind of impatience, because I've been almost like a Boy Scout, ready for everything to crumble. And like, okay, let's get this show on the road. Let's stand up in our true power and live what we've come here to do, and move into this golden age. But for some reason, my frustration of what's happening is holding me back, because I get a little irritable of what I see out in others that I have to honor in their sense of compassion of where they are, because that's our job, to hold the light.
Yeah. Beautifully said, Michael. Seth, Brendan?
Well, I have a lot to say, so I want everybody to get their piece out before I dive in.
Brendan, Azariah?
Yeah, so I've been kind of, that's the piece I've been noticing too, Michael, is the struggle between these perceptions. The perspectives on both sides are very intense right now, and that's the shadow piece I've been noticing coming up to the surface. The intensity of like all the pedogate stuff, you know, that's coming up to the surface, and so those are the things I'm feeling very intensely in the matrix right now. You know, the field is ripe with those things, and people are just waking up to it. People are fighting it. People are debating it right now. The mask thing is really intense. And I just had this conversation with a good friend of mine just the other day about the struggle amongst the perspectives, and how that itself is a division. And then we as conscious creators, we as the ones who are awakened to our powers as
Not me.
Come on, guys.
Let's go with it.
Okay. I'll pause for a second.
okay.
All right, so we figured out this little technical AI issue. It's always a challenge, isn't it? Right? Who was on deck? Who was interrupted? Brandon, I think you were interrupted.
Thanks, Brandon.
Yeah. So what was I saying? A good friend of mine, we were having this conversation about this whole mask issue and what our responsibility as conscious creators are. And I think what I was my piece in this, as I'm watching the external, it's very similar to what you were saying, Michael, is basically to kind of go inside and resolve that place within me that I'm witnessing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're holding the same exact piece in the same exact way. It means that anything in your, the guides would say, your purview, anything that you're witnessing is a part of your own creation. So you resolve your creation that exists inside of you as you witness it. And so one of the things I was noticing is like and this kind of goes back to the surrender piece from last talk we had. What if instead of focusing on how the masks are restricting our freedom or saving us, right? We focus on what that piece is that unites us all. What is it that we all can agree on through this whole process? Well, essentially, we all want the same thing. We all want peace. We all want safety. We all want freedom. Even the people who wear the mask, they want that too. So if we focus instead on the things that are dividing us, we focus on that piece and surrender the rest to Creator. We envision ourselves as a society and a world that has a resolution where we all feel this way and we're united in this feeling, and we just hold that place, and the rest is surrendered over to Creator, and we feel this fulfillment of that realization within us, and that's the place that we hold. And then as we hold that, we can begin to witness that in our surrounding. And if everybody did this, rather than focus on our own personal individual belief system of what we think is the right way, we let Creator sort out the rest. We just focus on that one thing that we can agree on. And if everybody who did that, who is awake, who is aware of their own power, if everybody did that, we would have a different world instantly.
Right. So,
Brandon, thank you.
So what prevents us from doing that, Brendan? I mean, these are beautiful, beautiful words, and I agree with them wholeheartedly, but I'm personally frustrated seeing that the operational aspect of what you're saying is not in effect, because there's this unawareness, this forgetfulness of what you talked about.
Well, I think that goes back to a couple of different things. One is most people are not aware to the extent of their own power.
Right.
That's the main one. They're not aware to the extent that them just holding that place within them, focusing on the things that we can agree on, focusing on that actually creates an effect, actually is doing something tangible. The next thing is people are very caught up in their need to be right or their need to feel safe. And they think that their own idea of what that is the answer. And so not realizing that the Creator, the universe itself, the universe intelligence has all the answers, has all the solutions. So if we realize that one, Creator has the answers, Creator has the solutions, that we can trust that. So that goes back to those virtues that I was mentioning previously. If we can trust that, if we can release our need to solve the problems ourselves, if we can put our trust in Creator, if we can align ourselves to the fulfillment of that energy with such trust and knowing that it's going to unfold without attachment to anything that we're seeing within our own perspectives, our own righteousness, our own whatever it is that you think is right or wrong. If we can let go of that, so that's the thing that we are moving through, is our reconditioning of ourselves, of our unconditioning of ourselves. So if we can move through that piece, then we will have that other place. But we have to let go of those ideas of needing to be this side or that side.
Yeah, and I want to actually, Seth, my apologies, and Azariah, let me jump in here for a story, because I think it would solidify actually what we're talking about and why I was prompted to talk about the energies that are going on. You know, I have two sisters. I have a younger sister who's about 10 years younger than me. I love her dearly, and she called me up to see how she was doing, how I was doing. I haven't talked to her for a little bit. We got into this petty conversation, more or less. What are you doing? And just came from Costco. I just went to Costco. Can you believe they're handing out masks? Right? That's how she started off. I said that. Can you believe they're handing out masks? And immediately her response was, oh, you're one of those. Well, I don't know what happened within me, but that kind of triggered me in ways that I normally wouldn't be triggered. And so we had this animated conversation about perspective. And what was crystal clear in that perspective, in that conversation, in that discussion, my family member, my kin, my blood were so divided. We were polar opposites on an opinion, on a discourse, right? Because I had a perspective and she had a perspective, and we were complete opposites. And the important part is to stay in neutrality, right? And as I began to, not to justify or influence her, but just to see a different perspective, to say, well, here's my perspective on what wearing masks mean, as opposed to not really having a self-reflective or more critical perspective of what masks actually do. You know, I'm the kind of individual that is a critical thinker, meaning when I'm told something, I will examine it on all aspects of it for truth. Because I believe that there is truth. Truth is always maintained. Whether you know it, Seth, or Michael, or Zariah, or Brandon, David, we know that to be truth, we will all see it in the same view. Otherwise, it's perspectives, different perspectives. And so that was startling for me, because at that point in time, I realized that there are more energies pushing individuals to an extreme. They're pushing these perspectives more to the extreme, to the point where people are just going to bust. They're like, you know what? I'm tapped out. Can't deal with this anymore. And then what happens, right? So interesting perspective, or interesting view. In the end, we hugged it out, and my motto is all about love, regardless of my perspective. I love her dearly, and she said, in the end, I'm probably going to talk to you and say, oh, you were right. And I said to her, it's not about being right. It's about being kind. It's about being kind. And so, just some food for thought. Seth, Azariah, I really would love to hear your perspective on this.
Aloha, brothers. Can you hear me? Excuse me.
Later, brother.
Forgive me for coughing on the mic and for showing up late again. I'm glad to be here. I love you all. I think it's a beautiful, I'm just waking up. So it's a beautiful thing to wake up to the nourishment of this kind of brotherhood. And I just kick myself for missing 15 minutes of it earlier, but we're in abundance. So whatever. Yeah.
Yes.
And yeah, even just waking up this morning, I was fighting what I'm feeling in the energies of right now, which is feeling like a speeding up and a bombardment, and the energy of not enough, the energy of interesting flow in terms of finances and people investing in themselves, and so much. But then at the bottom of that, I'm feeling the call to observe, which is what I'm also hearing. It's like we have a lot of things that are bombarding us in terms of how we are separate and how we're not alike. And so what I want to hold to is the unifying factor, which is the heart, which is our need for good water, which is just hitting me more and more by the daily. The need to be healthy, and to really, despite everything that's being supplied to us, be able to hone in on what's important for each of us as individuals. And so what I'm finding is, me and my family, though we are very much alike, tuning into my higher calling, I've just come through them, but not to make everything at ease with them. And so I'm feeling you, because I have the same issues when it comes to discussing things with certain family members, whether they be of an older generation or siblings, and I just try to hear them out more so, and then keep my space in love, because we're not the same. Like when I look at the history of my time in my family, in terms of the nuclear unit, I've always stood out, and it hasn't always been understood. And so I personally am tired of masks, walking around with masks. And if my mask is slipping a little bit, someone in a store, someone will have the decency maybe to say, hey, your mask is, and I want to be like, hey, your mask is on. Follow your own face. There's a part of me that doesn't like, as I'm approachable, but then there's a part of me that's like, are you serious? Like, I'm 7 feet away from you, and you feel the urge to reach out to me to try to bring me into your group think. in regards to this, your mask doesn't even work. Like, I know what it is to wear, you know, a mask with a high efficiency filter that actually helps you with things. And even that, it's not necessarily the best for microbes. So these joke masks that we're wearing currently, unless you're wearing a HEPA mask, a HEPA filter,
Mhm.
a high efficiency particulate filter, it's not doing anything. Not doing anything for our lungs, but it's doing something here.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm navigating that space, but also recognizing that I'm breath and I'm divinity and I'm also very small in all of this. And so I'm fluctuating between big and small, big within my heart and within my mind and within how I'm choosing to navigate the space, and then very small in terms of, feeling how my brothers and sisters are navigating and really getting to see the fears. There's so much fear, whether it's, again, we have like all of our waters being attacked, where to get good water, right? Well, at least I know, so I'm grateful. Okay. Um, Certain electromagnetic frequencies that are bombarding us, how to get around that. Oh, I'm connected to, you know, say the Healy or some other technology. Plus, I can meditate and work on those frequencies within myself. So I'm just trying to see the solutions that are presented to me in the abundance as we are quickly moving into um, a new phase of being, and I wanna surf those waves, and also allow me to feel everything that comes with it, because feeling is what connects us together.
Mm.
And I don't want to lose my ability to feel what my brothers and sisters are feeling, but I also don't want to drown in the waters if I already know I can swim. And so I just want to continue to swim with you, brothers, and also voice what's going on, because the lack of being able to communicate, I think, is a big issue right now, especially amongst men who are going through tough times. And I've got some men in my life who are going through some really tough times that I've already been through. And the barrier to me being able to assist them is really their willingness to communicate beyond the shame that they feel and the desperation that they feel. And I'm like, I felt all those things. And so what do we do? Do we go fast into the future of what we're building, and then go back into the past that is the present, and just, allow the wisdom that would open up the port through us to benefit everyone else? I want to choose that, and also be open to the wisdom that I need to move forward to. I think that's really what I want to share on it, aside from aloha. Thank you.
We're going to bookend some bookmark some really important points on what you talked about with men dealing and unpacking, especially as they're dealing with that. I think it's very critical. I want to circle back with that as far as the shadow side and some other things that I want to bring forward. So hold on to
It
that.
hurts. Yeah, I'll just say that, like, my main pain point right now is hurting for some brothers that I know are hurting right now in a way that I've hurt before, and I just remembered I can still taste the pain, you know. I'm not trapped in it, but it just makes me sad to think some of us have to go through it. But again, that is a rites of passage
Yes.
for all beings. So I honor it.
It's
Thank you.
an initiation, in fact.
Yeah, yes it is.
Seth, what yours?
Well, first of all, everything that every single one of you have shared so far has just hit those heart strings within my heart. And I love how we all are able to have such a deeper perception about universal themes that we're experiencing at the same time, and be able to kind of share that together in the attempts that it's crystallizing and becoming a greater expression of it. So for me, to bring it back to kind of where we started, last week I had two events that triggered me like I didn't even know what to, like, I didn't even realize it was happening. And then the next thing I know, I am on this roller coaster of emotions, of things that I thought I had dealt with and processed a long time ago. And it first happened with two friends of mine who are beautiful people who just have this amazing healing spa, and they're doing a bunch of work. And I just somehow got caught up into something that was said through somebody else. And so I cleared that up with them, and it was like, thank goodness, you know. And then the other thing happened with, you know, one of my dearest friends, a woman that I love more than anything, just a dear, dear close friend of mine. And we were like not connecting to the degree that it was like, are we ever even going to be able to talk again kind of thing. And we're both just like, what is happening? And kind of like David said, the astrology, you know, the cosmic weather report, there's so many different factors that are tying into, you know, the eclipses, everything that's happening right now, that even people who aren't more sensitive are being subjected to it and feeling it and responding to it. So I look at it like this, because being somebody who I spent so much of my life confronting shadow. And it's interesting, as you're Zeus, you're sitting in front of a tree, but there's a great quote: the bigger the tree, or the taller the tree, the bigger the shadow, you know? And I've noticed that the more that I've chosen to really open up and to shine and to self-empower myself to the best abilities that I could personally do for myself, it comes with an equal shadow or something that comes along with the ride. And it can't ever be suppressed or oppressed or pushed aside. It's just always going to be there, even though the tendency is to like, oh, I don't want to deal with this, you know? So now what's happening with the world, with everything, with the mask, the pandemic, the whole 9 yards, a lot of people I know, a lot of light workers, a lot of people who are in their heart, are like, oh, it's collective. It's a collective wake up call, you know, and all we're being woken up. And yeah, it kind of is, but they're missing the point in that it's not a collective wake up call. It's a personal wake up call. And the only reason it looks collective is because most of us have been ignoring the gentle nudges that source has been egging us on to perceive throughout the duration of our lives. And so when we keep ignoring those gentle nudges, things get heated up, because it's like, hey, I'm trying to get your attention here, like, you know, and we're just like, oh yeah, that's right. No, I'm going to go back to my dysfunction, or I'm going to go back to living externally, because we focus so much of our attention on the world around us, negating our ability to focus so much awareness and attention inside of us. And when we do that, that's where our powers come from. So I personally, like, as this stuff comes up, I'm like, okay, it's all these collective things are happening. And I think, I don't remember, one of you brothers said it, but once I get over the emotional kind of flurry that erupts as a result of it, I'm like, oh, okay, I get right back to it. And I'm like, this is me. It's not collective. It's not the world. That's just the appearance that it's taking place as. Whatever is happening is something within my own ability to perceive it that I'm not looking at. And so as soon as I do that, as soon as I get into that space, then suddenly the circumstances, the situations, the whatever it was that came up, like, it resolves. And suddenly I'm at peace, and I'm like, okay, another initiation, another rite of passage, another thing that keeps coming up. And it's like, we're always being given these opportunities, because we as individuals, and we as a species, from the way I perceive it, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but we have not lived in accordance with our own internal nature for so long that we are, as a species, not living in accordance with the natural world around us. And so the cure to that, or the antidote, is for the individual to take responsibility for how they perceive it, for the part of themselves that is triggered, or the shadow, and really transmuting that into a highly heart coherent space that then trickles into our perception of self and reality. So
I want to jump in there, because as soon as you were talking, I was thinking of cymatics. I don't know if you brothers have had an opportunity to see all the work that's been done on cymatics and frequency. So, Tesla talked about if you want to know the world, know through frequency and vibration. And so cymatics, as the frequency jumps, you get more geographical or more complex images, as it were, from the frequency itself. So if we look at the Schumann resonance or Gaia's frequency at 7.83 hertz, and as you may have some follow, the hertz level actually jumps now. We've had unstable Schumann resonance now for the last, I think, 8 years from what I've been tracking. The magnetic north is shifting. There are things happening with Gaia as a whole. But if you look at the Gaia frequency from 783, part of the ascension process is that Gaia will be resonating at a new frequency at 12.43 hertz, I think, or something to that extent. Maybe a little higher. So if we look at as organic beings on this planet, and us requiring to shed that lower frequency vibration in order to be part of that higher vibration. And that isn't automatic. That's like a trial jump, right? We jump there, we go, oh my God, this is so intense. What is this all about? We have these reflexive moments about our shadow size. And the shadow for me, from a Jungian perspective, is all those repressed aspects we don't want to shed light on, right? And so we're forced to look at them. We're forced to deal with them. We're forced to inspect them, to integrate them, to synthesize them, because the alternative motive or the alternative option associated with that, in my view, is that it's going to be very painful. It's going to be incredibly painful. And that's what's resisting. I've noticed that within myself as I integrate all my shadow stuff. When I resist, it persists. When it persists, it becomes painful. And so for me now, practical tools that men can use, or men or women can use, that when they tap into a shadow part of it and dealing with it and healing with it, what have you worked, what have you noticed, and how have you allowed it, how have you worked through it to give those practical tools for individuals that are earnest in actually dealing with it?
Are you asking? You're asking me that?
Whoever is called to answer. It's a general question.
I would just like to jump in and just honor the truth of what we're expressing, because I feel in our collective and individual right now, there is this level of pain and hurt that's rising within us.
Yes.
And I feel in our old condition of life, we viewed pain as a bad thing. And through many, many years of just my own personal healing journey and working with so many people, as I realized that pain is a message. I feel pain is actually a wake-up call. I feel that when we look at our journey of life, we've all have beautiful gifts and contracts that we've signed up in a soul level. And the further we move off that path, the universe gives these beautiful sensations of pain, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, and it's coming through the spiritual level to wake us up. And with that pain level, what I've learned personally, what I really help with clients, is really to embrace it. And to embrace it and to see all the layers of it. Because many times when we feel pain, that victim wants to come in and wants to control that. And so what I bring within the pain is I bring love. And it's going to sound a little corny, but I embrace that with, what is that pain? Where is that feeling that's coming from? How can we nourish that? How can we respect that? How can we celebrate that? How can we appreciate that pain? Because underneath is that shadow, is that pain just seeking attention because it's never been viewed. It's never been surfaced because we've been conditioned. It's not okay to feel not okay. When we can just say, it's okay to feel not okay. It's okay to feel the pain. And so in one of my healing sessions, I bring forth their levels of pain and I let them echo it and express it and give voice to it. Because right now I feel, as I think you said, Seth, this is our day of empowerment. We're not here to enable any of our brothers and sisters. We're here to help empower them, not fix them. We're help to give them the reflection of what's within us, those tools that are already here. And I know when we look at the shadow, there's all of these layers that are coming up. And I feel that this is this waterfall, this explosion, this energetic that's coming out. And now how are we going to embrace it? How are we going to accept it? And what I love, Zeus, what you said earlier last week is how are we going to surrender it and forgive it? Because right now, we have to let it go with grace, compassion, love. And part of it, what I love what you said, Ezra, is observing and witnessing it, because sometimes we just have to experience it within ourselves so that we can speak to others. And so in my personal healings, the tools that I work with individuals is really allowing them, from a shamanic standpoint, is to look at the child, look at the teenager, look at the adult, and look at the elder, and see how those pain, those messages, those shadows are affecting each one. And then to go back to those individual experiences and to bring forth an acceptance, a deep level of love, grace, forgiveness, but most important, this allowing that it's happened, because I believe everything has happened for a reason. And we're all being taught how to go through it. And all of us have individual experiences of how we deal with pain. We all have our own gifts. For me, I just, I'm a warrior of the heart, and I want to stand in love and see how we can bring love to every single thing. And when I say love, not the gooey emotional, but the divine love, the creator, which I'm so grateful, Brand, that you spoke, because when we bring it back to the creator, we are the creators. The creator is all of us. And when we allow the creator to bring its divinity through us, then we can let go of what we want to the angels, to the masters, to our spirit guides, to the elements, to the directions. We just call upon them and thank them through our gratitude. And those are just some of the tools that I want to give people, because I know sometimes this mental body wants to think of this very complicated, accelerated, sophisticated way that may make our egos be like, wow, that's something I never heard of. Because in my healing profession, I've learned through the ages, it's like, it's the best new thing. It's the new fad. It's the new way. But I feel that Earth, Gaia, Creator has given us all that we have, and everything that we have within is here to be utilized. So let's go back into our heart through the simplicity of life, and now start sharing that through our divinity of love. And that's to embrace the shadow. It's to fully embrace what's come up with our depths of love. I think you're on silence, Isis.
Beautiful said, Michael. Thank you.
Well said, Michael.
Though that being said, though, I had thoughts about that, and I agree with everything. And I'm just imagining some men and some women, but let's talk about the men that are going through some incredible traumatic abuses as young children. I'm thinking about sexual abuses from a very young age. And a lot of those abuses, as I understand them to be, are repressed. If you're young enough, that they don't even enter in your conscious being. And if you are aware of it, they become encasiated. And as those walls start to melt and erode, you're not going to find love at that point in time. It's going to be like those 7 stages of death, where you're going to be in denial, right? You're going to go through that whole process. Not me. It wasn't me. How did this happen to me? And getting to the point where you're finally going to accept and then surrender to the love and the forgiveness, as it were, right? I think it's really important not to minimize anything you said, Michael, but I think it's really important for men to honor in the process that they're in, to acknowledge, to accept, and to surrender to what is coming, and just witness. Allow those emotions, as turbulent as it may be, because there could be a sense of rage, the sense of indignation for being stripped of the power that we all have as sovereign beings, right? It propagates us to a perspective of servitude and collective consciousness. As I've said to you guys before, the greatest gift we can give to society and to humanity is our authenticity and our vulnerability, right? And if you unpack that, there's a lot layers going in underneath that. So I apologize for whoever was going to go there. I thought it was something important to add.
Oh, to both of you brothers. I'm ready for Seth to drop it.
Let's drop it, Seth.
So the thing that I have noticed unrelentingly, no matter what the circumstances of life present to us, we can either A, respond in resistance to it or as a victim, or B, we can say, you know what, I might not know what this is at face value, but I know that it is something deeper trying to get my attention, essentially source trying to get my attention. So then the thing becomes, okay, by focusing on source, by focusing on this energy that animates the being, that allows us, that's gifting us this opportunity to be human, if we keep focusing on that, just make a habit out of continuously doing that, and then watch from that place, because then things start coming up from the past. You could call it shadows, you could call it whatever, but when you're in a very coherent place, and when you've made that decision, you are going to focus on this source of energy that is allowing your heart to beat. The more you do that, the more in alignment you get. Something happens, you get out of tune, but you've already made that decision, you're going to get back in. Then slowly, bit by bit, you start to become conscious of unconscious behaviors, thoughts, things that have been affecting you from the past that you could look at as shadow. And each time these things come up, when you are in a state of presence, of present future, you could say, then those old patterns, those old figments of memory have less hold over you when seen from the light of your own consciousness. So I've done this to the degree where, because I've been in some very, very traumatic situations, and I've had a lot of things that I personally didn't know if I would even be able to come out of them. But I just kept doing this over and over and over and over and over and over, and making new habits of being in a state of calm and really loving my body, loving the heartbeat that's happening, loving the incomprehensible amount of physiological and autonomic reactions that are taking place faster than the speed of light all through my being. And noticing that as I focus on that and become aware of it, my awareness of that energy becomes amplified within my own being. And so then you start to become aware of, like, wow, I'm actually really powerful when I do that. But those other things, you become aware of what you were unaware of, and that continues to come up. And it's funny, a lot of people who, just start hearing this stuff might be like, oh, you're bypassing, you're not, and I may have said this last time, you're, by just focusing on the love of source that you feel inside of you, you're not giving priority, you're not focusing on these past traumas and things that, that are really holding you back. But what I say to them is, like, guess what? I've done that. I've spent so much time focusing on my traumas, trying to make sense of them, trying to resolve them, really, asking, like, oh, why did this happen? What, just dwelling in it. And I found that the act of doing that creates more of the same. It doesn't help resolve it. It actually perpetuates it more, because you're reinforcing the same neural circuitry that was initiated or that was activated from the original trauma. So a lot of people struggle with this because they want to dwell in the feelings of victimization that occur as a result of their initial traumas. And I can tell you from my own personal experience, and I've done that. Like I said, I've done it and I've done it and I've done it. and it has only created more of that. So by really choosing, making that decision, like, you know what, okay, doesn't matter what happened, I'm going to keep bringing my attention back to this beautiful energy that is allowing my heart to breathe, to beat, to this, all the things that are causing my lungs to breathe, all this. As soon as I just keep bringing my attention back to that without thinking about it or anything, I'm just being aware of it, then I'm creating a new elevated state of being that just automatically purges all the past trauma, all the things that were once holding me back. Because like I said, when you get into those new states of being and you make them the priority, you really make that the priority, then the old stuff just doesn't have a place to live in you anymore. It goes away.
I'm really glad you brought up the spiritual bypassing. So that was actually something that I was wanting to comment on too. Is there's a really great quote I like from Viktor Frankl, who wrote Man's Search for Meaning, and that quote basically is the greatest gift a man has is the ability to choose the response to the stimulus in which he has no control. So no matter what you're observing, you choose how you react. You choose how you want to engage in that, whether it be physically or mentally or emotionally. And the choice sometimes seems like it's out of our control. So the choice seems like it's just a reaction, and we can't do anything about that. And then as far as like the things that we are going through, it's not about spiritual bypassing at all. Spiritual bypassing is trying to pretend like it doesn't exist. It's trying to push it to one side and just close your eyes real tight and say the monster is not in the room. But that doesn't work. When you're trying to close your eyes so tightly and pretend like that monster is not there, when you're scared at the dark, you're really just noticing all the things more, so, and whether you're sitting there and spinning in whatever you're going through and just engaging in it and pondering, why is it blah, 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 and then you're trying to justify your own beliefs and behaviors and patterns. And the thing that people see that think it's spiritual bypassing, when you're inviting the creator in to be with you, it's not that at all. It's being willing to be fully present with whatever you're feeling, fully present. Like, I'm feeling this thing, and I'm inviting creator in with me to be the teacher for me on whatever this thing is that I'm feeling, and show me what I need to let go of. Show me what I need to see here. Show me what I need to release. Show me where this originated, so I can finally be done with this and finally move past this. Show me, creator, what I need to see here so I can be free and live with you fully. And so that's what I do, is I do this without words, but I go into the spaces that I'm feeling, and sometimes it takes me way back. And sometimes it takes me right there, and all I need to do is love and breathe through that place and fully feel that creator melt itself into me. And as I'm doing that, I feel my spirit lift. I feel my energy lift. I feel my heart expand right there in that moment. And it's not a bypassing. It's a transmutation of whatever that is. And sometimes you're trying to transmute it, and it's not going away. And that's a cue for you that there's something deeper there that you're not looking at, that you're refusing to see. And so that's the cue to go, okay, I feel something stuck here. Show me what that is. Show me what I need to do and be here in this moment with this thing that I'm experiencing. So you can indulge in those emotions. You can indulge and engage in your anger and your fury, and move through those places however you deem fit and necessary at that moment, until you get to that spot where you can go, okay, I'm going to be calm and centered now. Just show me what I need to see. And the length of time that it takes to get from A to B to do that, completely up to you. That is our choice. But but the resolution there is to be fully present with that experience, not to judge it, not to wish it away, not to do anything else, to be there and learn in that moment what it has to teach you.
I'm jumping for joy listening to you here. You guys probably see me, I'm fidgeting, and I'm like, but the reason why is because everything that you're saying is so applicable to anybody who earnestly wants to do this, you know. And it's really like, no matter what you've gone through, no matter what's happening, when you've truly decided, like, you know what, I'm just going to keep connecting. I don't care if it takes me 5 minutes. I don't care if it takes me 2 weeks. I am going to keep connecting no matter what it takes. And eventually a liberation of energy occurs. And when it does, you're just like, that was worth every bit of time that I put into doing that. And this is something that everybody can do. Like, everybody can do this, you know. And I'll be real quick and I'll say something. You guys know probably, I was incarcerated for marijuana, just something I was into in my younger years. And, you know, I am a sensitive kid. I was a kid. I was like, I'm not prison material, you know. And within the first 3 months that I was in there, I got brutally sexually assaulted by a huge guy, you know. And of course, you know, and I didn't get raped or anything, but the initial impact, the trauma of experiencing something like that was so severe for me in that situation that, like, I literally felt like I wanted my spirit to leave my body, because it was more than my human senses knew how to deal with. But what I did was, I literally just, like, I summoned this power in me that is in all of us, but that I knew it was there. And I said, you know what? I just let it come through me. And I literally got right into this guy's face, and we just went at it completely. And it was like the fear of his own conscience came through me, reflected back to him, and he realized what he was doing. And he broke down and started crying, and in front of all kinds of people, because at this point we're screaming at each other. And he, you know, this is a predator, right? A total predatory type of person. And he's crying and he's losing it. And I'm so sorry. Why would I do this? You know? And for me, like, the impact was so severe, but I just kept, after it was over, and I'm left with the residue of the feeling of, like, why did that just happen to me? But I kept going into these spaces and I just kept connecting. And it took me probably 2 or 3 days of doing this for hours every day, just connecting to it. And then it finally lifted and it resolved. And not only was there no more trauma at all, but from that point forward, because I had attained an elevated state of being in a place that doesn't necessarily support that, the other brothers, the inmates around me, were able to support me in that place of being elevated as well. So my point in saying all this is, when, no matter what we go through, no matter how extreme it is, when we truly focus and connect to source and love it and be with it and make that the priority, it will liberate whatever past energy holds us back and prevents us from being empowered. So just want to share that.
Oh,
Thank you for sharing.
Beautiful.
Let's be real, right?
No, this is it's an incredible, vulnerable moment, Seth, and I think that's what everyone can tap into as far as the vulnerabilities go, because that's what the shadow side is all about. It's this willingness to look into the extreme aspects that we haven't had a chance to, or unwilling to, and that's the most liberating. Think about that as 30-pound bags that you're carrying with you, and wouldn't it be better to have those bags released and replace it with something more that could serve you, right? And the shadow work is the most difficult and most courageous thing that one can do. And typically, it doesn't happen all at once. It happens over a lifetime, typically, right? But we're at a point in our planetary ascension now that all of this has to be looked at. And there's, it seems to me, to Zraya's point, time is speeding up. It feels like, to me anyways, it feels like time is speeding up. And it feels like a point of singularity is coming, you know, where everything transforms, right? We initially got into the conversation about what was happening on this planet and the energy. You know, what I feel is going to happen in the next 2 months is more violence, more extreme emotions, more of the taking away of civil liberties, more division. It's going to get to a point of just complete lunacy. And I think as I'm speaking these words, it's important to note that what we've spoken about, what we've all spoken about in previous roundtable, is to surrender, to allow it to be, get into your heart space, because we have the distinct privilege of holding that container and allowing and feeding love into humanity that's become unraveled. And it's only through that collective conscious, as things are unraveling, do we all wake up at the same time and really get to the point of horror of how we've been manipulated and how we've been pitted against each other, you know, against the sexes, against the races, against the religion, and pick something. It's always against something. And it's important to note these are all illusions, and that has to be pushed to the extreme. We're already starting to see the illusions, right? And it requires more of the extreme now to people finally say enough is enough. You know, the hashtag needs to trend. Enough is enough. We collectively need to unite as a human race, because it's not good enough anymore, right?
Aloha, brothers. May I share? Yeah. Just to, like, I'm, again, always grateful to feel into what everyone's sharing here. And there's so many beautiful keys that I really hope we can all reflect on these as we move forward, because it's like we're bringing the pieces that we need to move together. And also for those who end up viewing this, there's a difference that I'm realizing in regards to, there's the bypassing, and then there's the passing through. And so if you're someone who's had some experiences of passing through, those who are observing you may not understand till much later. I've gone through things in my early 20s, 30s, whether it be cancer, divorce, wiping away all of my stuff, recognizing that we have brothers who are in prison. I said this in a post the other day, but I was in ceremony. I still feel like I'm in ceremony right now. That you have brothers that go into prison who really understand our reality. And then you have people who are navigating the reality so that they can gain an understanding of the prisons that we're in. And so I feel like we're being presented with everything that we need in all these moments. We speak about the speed of light, but what many people don't know is light it's not a speed. There isn't a speed to it. It's a rate of induction, which is like, it's what we have. And I'm open to being wrong, but we have a blinking in and out of existence continuously that's faster than we perceive. And so for that light, we're blinking our light in and out. And then what we're thinking and what we're holding in our consciousness is creating a construct. And then, you know, you have the water that is going to hold the shape of what we blink in vibrationally. And then we have the things outside of us that are sending a frequency towards us that have to do with our consent. So there is a power that we all have to make that choice, as was mentioned in regards to Viktor Frankl. It's a very, very powerful statement. And what I see, what I feel is that there is a big effort to get us to consent with the power that we have within ourselves unknowingly to a reality that we may not really want. And so it's good to come together in these communications and then be affirmed and tap into the truth and the strength that we go deeper. We go deeper into the shadow to see what we've been consenting to that we don't really want to consent to, and then we can release that. And that takes a going through. We were talking about there's a saying that I like. It's called embrace the suck, and you can take that in so many different ways. But I mean, when you're going through that hard time, embrace the suck, meaning like, through training. And I remember when I was in high school and I trained with friends in college and ROTC and whatnot, and even for my work, sometimes there's an aspect of training necessary and you hurt. But when you're hurting together with your brothers and you're getting somewhere, well, the hurt is like, I'm sore, and it's a good thing. But when you're sore and you're by yourself, then it's like, oh man, I'm getting old. My knees hurt. Like today, I jumped on top of my truck and my knee turned a certain way. And I'm like, did that just happen? Knee? With all the vitamins that I'm putting in your body, but I embrace it because it's an aspect of the outer universe speaking to our inner universe. And so in that silence and in that center space that we're taking, I don't believe it's bypassing at all, although I do believe many people bypass, but it's a passing through. And so it was important for me to today, Jesus, when you mentioned Gaia and her resonance changing, because what I'm doing in ceremony is I'm sitting out and I'm watching when the hummingbird comes to me and asking, okay, what is the exterior telling me about my internal world? When this plane goes by and I want quiet because I'm making a video, why don't I just allow it? Because that plane is also an extension of my internal world that I can observe to move through. And so with all the craziness and the speeding up, there are things that are beckoning us to take a fixed position, to take like we're talking about the ascension through different scalar wave, like standing waves that we can jump into at different angles. And so if there's also going to be something to encourage us that's coming through to pick a certain type of scalar wave to adjust to, as opposed to being flexible. And so I want to be in that vibration, which is what I feel here within the silence of our words as well, to be flexible and to observe and to move through and to be able to embrace the suck in terms of feeling and hold my intention and recognize the power of my consent and see where I'm consenting to things. And so this is a beautiful space of reflection, and also recognizing that because Gaia is changing, I want to be connected to her so that I can change with her. What I pay attention to in relationship with my partner and in the women around me, whether they're related to me or not, is every time they start talking about their period or certain things they're going through, I'm listening, because this is the cycles speaking to me. It used to be, I don't want to hear this. I don't want to know about it. Ew, and now it's like, oh, you don't say. You're cramping today. Oh, you're feeling this kind of way. And then I look at the world, and I feel like I gain a different introspect about the whole thing. So not to ramble on, just to say that I feel like we've touched upon some really powerful tools, and the ability to observe, the ability to honor that part of us that is masculine, and hold the space for the flexibility and allow it to take us for a ride, right? That's also something that's been talked about in Tantra, and I'm a novice, but I'm just like understanding from just experience that if you can hold that space for the woman as she takes you into the cosmos, you get to experience the cosmos. And sometimes she may not be paying attention to all the cosmos because she's in it, but lucky me, I get to be present. And I used to get mad in relationships. I'd be like, why are you feeling this right now? Don't you see everything's great? Feel it. I'm going to see that everything's great and it's all good. And then I'm going to feel it too. And I can remind you of it because I was holding space. And so perhaps we're called to do this, to dig our feet into the ground and feel the resonance and be affected by it and go for that ride, and then hold space so that when she's done, we can let her know, hey, you should probably drink some water because that was a doozy and your mouth looks dry, but for good reason. I love you. Let me hold you and do that. And with that, I'll take silence again. Loving you, brothers.
Oh,
I can just say one thing to honor what you said, Azariah, and honor all of you, because we get to hold space for each other. And I feel that's the greatest gift in this call. We get to hear each other. We get to heart each other. And Jesus, I completely agree. I feel in these next months, we're going to be holding a lot of space. There's going to be a lot of things coming up. And I feel what's the gift is we each have our communities. We each have our voice to really express the compassion, because there's going to be a lot of anger. There's going to be a lot of pain. There's going to be a lot of this explosion of the shadows of the unseen. And what I'm grateful for, really grateful for, is in last week's, I feel like the comments come up and all of a sudden it's like our own little test to be like, okay, surrender. Okay, let's dive into it. Then all of the next 2 weeks, we're like, holy shit, the surrender, the forgiveness, the anger, it's all hitting us left and right. And it's like, thank you, Z. I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm ready for the full shadow to jump in my face right now afterwards, because we put it out to the universe and then we have to walk it. We have to talk it. We have to embrace it. And I appreciate this coming forward, because for all of us, I feel we are all here in positions to really use our experience, use our beautiful hearts, and really our beautiful love, just to listen, just to hear one another, and really give what I find is the most beautiful power, is that compassion and love back to what we're going to see as some of the most extreme atrocities that are out there. And I feel all of us are going to be in positions to really just stand in our unity, because we see the divisions. And I'm glad, Brandon, you spoke about those divisions, because we're here to bring unity into this. We're here to, it's almost like when we look at all this, we can see, is this creating more separation or just bringing more unification? And a lot of us, I know, we're going to get triggered of like, that just is not right. That doesn't feel good. How can these atrocities be brought forward? But somewhere in our heart, we still have to come back and forgive. We still have to realize that every being and every contract that came in was to experience exactly, no matter how bad it is, no matter each man and woman that is listening to this and being like, I have this pain, we have to listen and hold them, and we have to hear them. And we have to allow them, which I feel is the biggest thing, which Jesus, I feel, is the gift, is allow them to voice it in their highest expression without projecting, without judging, without trying to point at something. And even if they do, we still hold that space, because in our elevated consciousness, we're here to recognize that this is one of the biggest positions that we've all been placed into in our communities. And I'm just grateful that we can bring this attention, because we have a choice. And that choice is to respond versus react, because we can react and we can scream and we can kick and fight. We've all been there. And sometimes it's necessary to go out, go scream to a tree, go yell at a lake, go express it to the elements, because they're going to hold that. But to our fellow brothers and sisters and the ones that can feel, we may want to just use our discernment of how we want to share it. And so I feel that sense of just that breath of presence of just really holding that space in these next weeks and days and months to come is going to be our biggest mission as this group and as those people that are here, just to be present with that, because the show is just it's gonna get more crazy, and I feel that as a united group we can hold and support each other and hold each other and really just provide that love. And that's what I'm grateful that all of us can do on this call.
I'm immensely grateful for all your voices. And I'm keenly aware that we all had a journey to get to this point. I've started to realize as men, we suppress and hide all our gifts because of shame, because of whatever shadowy stuff that we have. And to all the men that are listening there right now, to all the things that are atrocities that are going to be revealed in the next month, we as men have a moral obligation to protect and to express the indignation we feel in protecting the less secure, the less powerful, and to hold that space. We have that moral obligation. So that's my call to all men that are listening to this right now. Regardless of what you're dealing with now, allow it to be. Allow for yourself to be seen and heard, because there is no more perfect time than the right now. Work on what needs to be seen and heard, because your time will come very shortly. Each and every one of you, your time will come.
That's so beautiful, brother. Thank you so much. I'll just say too, I just want to add kind of what you're saying. The reason I presented something so intense, the situation that I had, is because it's coming to a point where I feel like it's really necessary for men to not hold back, to break down social barriers, social stigmas, things that we would normally be too ashamed to talk about. You know, being a man and talking about being sexually assaulted by another man is not something that most men would ever want to talk about, because it just brings up so many of their worst fears. But we have the ability to do this in safe space, and that's what this group represents. It's like, I know that I can tell you guys anything because of the coherence we're building together, and this sets an example. This helps break down the barriers that others are feeling, that other men are holding in their whatever, and it gives them permission to let it go. And you know, I just want to say, like, if anybody's listening to this, you know, whoever's listening to this, if you're feeling stuff, feel free to comment below this, share your experiences if you want. You know I'm personally going to be here reading the comments and paying attention, and I see this as a dialogue, as a community outreach, as a way for us to expand the healing potential that we all have within us with everybody as possible. So,
And if there's ways that we can individually assist any of you, I think if I'm not too, I think I would love to offer that to anybody, any men that would want to reach out to us, because that's critically important for all men to support each other in that way.
Oh, yeah, I believe the links, I've noticed the links are at the bottom of each, video. So I'd encourage all of you brothers who are watching, and even sisters. We're here to hold space for all of you, and don't get caught up in the heteronormity of my speech, regardless of, how you're navigating the expression of who you are. This is a group of men who are open to navigating with you for the higher calling of us stepping into the fullness of who we are as beings. Steph, I just want to honor you, brother, for speaking to, your experience. And like, I just think it's a really beautiful thing to be able to bring all of yourself. I see this in all of us here, with our hurts, with our pains, with our past experiences, because as men, we hold so much inside, and many of us have been assaulted in one way or another just by the experience here. And to learn how to recontextualize that assault and to pull sunlight from that darkness, or maybe antimatter darkness from that sunlight, however you want to look at it, is still, it's an amazing thing to witness and to feel, and to also know within yourself. And so we all have the tools. All those tools are here based on the experiences that we've had, but also they're at the disposal of those who are watching, who are catching this at a later date. And I keep in mind that I'm still being provided with new tools as well. And so it isn't so much, I got a bunch of stuff and you have nothing, but it's, we're all learning together. Yeah.
And as we acquire these tools, I think we have, a responsibility to say, hey, look at this cool tool I've got. Would you be interested in this? Or, yes. And this is what the whole premise of this roundtable is. And if any of you watching, or any of you lovely men, have any ideas how we can grow the community in a virtual environment to support men and have these dialogues and allow the hurt and allow the pain to be expressed while still holding the pain and releasing that pain, I'm all ears, because it is only through the holistic healing, collectively supporting each other, that then we allow our feminine, divine feminine, our sisters, to then lead and create and birth the new reality, the new earth.
Yeah, I have lots of ideas. We can talk about that another time. So
something I would love to see. I mean, what would make me so happy is if this, of course, we know it's not going to end, and there's more stuff coming up. But if we could see through to the end of this, to where we're able to gather together and just all of us gather in a space and create a space for men where we can, one, connect with the land, we can connect with our breath, we can connect with all the elements, we can have good water and good like sessions of healing, and also just go into all the ugly, what we consider the ugly that we're carrying. And you know, I'm all about transformative gatherings. That's what the Koji is about: love, courage, justice, and experiential integration. And I just feel like we all bring such beautiful pieces to this table, this round table. And so I'd love for the opportunity at some point to place the brothers who need it the most at the center of this round table and allow them to receive from us, and see what it feels like to receive protection and safety and love and like the okayness from a man and not be judged. Or if the judgments come up, that we can walk through those judgments together. I've experienced it in Western, and I've experienced it in, you know, the indigenous setting of my forefathers, going back to Africa and seeing what masculine and feminine looks like, what it looks like to be cared for a man and to be guided through your darkness, and like to have that instruction and that safety. And it's a game changer, and it's here. I feel that from you brothers. I feel held, you know, even if we're not talking about anything too special, but actually everything we talk about is special. So yeah, I'm open to it. I just want to put that out there. Oh, especially in Hawaii. Shoot. So,
Oh, that one.
yeah. I've got a space for it if, you know, if the time opens up. Just want to say that.
I suspect Azariah, Hawaii will be no more as the earth changes. So we're going to have to reassess where that would be overall, because there's incredible changes coming on this planet.
Perhaps so. Wherever it is, the Hawaii within me will have a space. Yeah. And for that matter, as will Bali.
I'm all for Bali. I'm all for an incredible space that we as men can congregate, wherever that may be. That natural space is sacred. Absolutely.
And I follow that up. I believe the needle that's, you know, being sown through all of this is our heart-centered consciousness that we get to share. And when the opportunity comes, which I so look forward to this, of us gathering in person and holding that energy and allowing those that can really sit there, because it's been beautiful to sit in some powerful ceremonies where, you know, we place those that are vulnerable and pain in the center, and those around them, you know, place their hands up. And even if we choose to place our hands up, or even do anything healing or, you know, oriented for those that are listening, just to shine our energy. Because what I've learned in this journey is there's no time and distance, you know, there's no space in between. What we put in our intention into our heart, we can magnify that with any wish or desire that we want to create. So I love the ideas that are being brought forward. And you know, even with my beloved, we envision a land one day, you know, a land given to us where everything is done by freedom, because we know one day it's all going to be done by love. You know, the financial system's going to break and we're rays of love, just allowing ourselves to connect into the hearts of all as we expand and grow together. So it's beautiful music to my ears to hear all of you just share, you know, everything that's within you to take part in this beautiful, beautiful roundtable. So thank you all.
Oh.
May I say something, gentlemen?
Please.
Please.
I feel honored to be with the five of you, and I feel like I'm sitting with masters. And I go back to one of Ziz's earlier questions: what are the tools that people use, men that maybe are just starting to battle with things like their really very dark issues, childhood sexual abuse, or other traumas that are very, very deeply disturbing. And I know, listening to you, and I know you all well enough to see that, Brandon, I know you've been doing this at least since you were 17, and Michael, you've been doing this for decades, and I know that Jesus is as well. And I've looked at some of your websites and I've seen some of your tools. I just want to tell anyone listening here that when they hear people say, well, what I do is I tap into divinity and I allow that energy to come through me, and the darkness around me dissipates, that it is that easy, and yet there are steps and tools along the way, and I've seen that you all know those tools, because I just want to caution us to sound like we are bypassing when we're not. Especially, Seth, with what you shared, it was breathtakingly beautiful to hear what you had gone through in your vulnerability and how you used your tools of tapping into divinity to heal a situation and others around you. And I know that that's within us all, yet I think it's also important to tell, especially our listeners, maybe some of the people that are taking the first few steps in this journey, that there are brick and mortar type tools that you can use to get the momentum moving. And it's not necessary to actually use those, but they are available for you.
And David,
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Israel. Go ahead.
I love what you've spoken to, David. And so I just want to say a whole. And this is something that I've been sitting with. As I say, I'm in ceremony. What I've been trying to do is we end up looking at this high-end knowledge. Many books, right? Many books are written. A lot of things are said, and how to distill it. And so I've been thinking about that. I'd like to offer just a couple of tools that have come to me. The first tool that I would say for anyone in any situation is to recognize that you are a tool. That could be a diss at times, but you are your tool. Like, so I'm a tool, but okay, forget it. Forget about it. What I'm saying is that you have the faculty within yourself to come up with your own set of tools as an individual. Many people don't know that. There's a feeling of everything's outside of me. I don't have. But you have the ability to turn everything around you into something that can benefit you in terms of a tool, whether it be the situation that you're in, hence why I say embrace the suck. That's turning your situation into a tool of transformation. If you are surrounded by people and you feel like you don't know something, look around and see who knows something, and automatically that person becomes a tool of growth for you. Because you can ask them a question. Hey, I'm confused right now. So you're utilizing the tool of communication to express where you're at. And then maybe perhaps that person can say, okay, what are you confused about? And now you have this dialogue. Well, I don't know how to do this. My tire's flat on one side and it keeps getting flat. Okay, let's jack the car up and see if there's a hole in your tire. Let's spray some water out. Like, all these things come off of you taking that first step. So the first step is taking a first step. The step before that is recognizing that you can take a step. And then try to turn everything in your environment into what it really is. When we speak of abundance, it is the fact that we have everything that we need, regardless of where we're trying to go in every given moment, because we're still here. It's just a matter of calling out to it, And so that's one tool, two, maybe three tools right there that I'd share. And without taking up too much time, I like the idea of simplifying it. And maybe I'll try to do that when I speak to something that I've worked into a different type of knowledge, but I want to distill it, because ultimately we need each other. And the tools are provided.
I just want to echo one tool that is critically important, and that is, as men, we need to start to feel. So part of the issue in that journey moving forward is the fact that we numb the feel. Pick your device: alcohol, drugs, tobacco, sex. Pick something. Those things numb the feel. They take away and distract for what you really need to deal with, essentially. And so I would ask all men, as they're trying to look and heal their shadows, is look within their lives and where they're numbing. And then not totally take it away, but in loving support of what you're going through, equal measures, as you start to take away, start feeling the feel. And to what Isaiah said, to what Brandon and Michael and Seth and David said, start the healing journey and the process.
Before this
Oh,
ends, because I have to leave in a couple minutes due to another live, I want to thank all of you. And I just want to honor each of what you've spoken about. And David, you hit a really good point for all that are listening. One thing that I find is crucial with men and women and everyone is to recognize that divinity, because I feel a lot of people have lost their connection with source. And because they've lost their connection with source, they've tried to create another feeling, which you've spoken about, Zeus. We've tried to create another high. We've tried to run toward all these external outside levels that bring joy and happiness. But I feel when we can come back and really look at how can we allow and really help others just to find their connection back to, if we want to call it source, creator, Allah, Mother Nature, divine, however we want to express that. I feel this virus that's happening, it's because it's teaching people how to connect back to their source, because when we are in source, we're in our divine health, we're in our divine nature. And I feel that's the separation that's being brought forward, because we have to come back to source. We have to come back to the divinity. We have to come back, Jesus, to the feeling that's already within us. And that's what we're doing. I mean, I joked around with my beloved, and I said, do you remember when the disciples all walked around thousands of years ago and all the people were looking at them like they were crazy? You know, when they were speaking of the virtues. And I feel like right now we're coming back, and a lot of us are bringing back those same universal virtues, which a lot of us seem that they're so common or simple, but there's so many brothers and sisters out there that are numbed, that are lost, that are in pain, and more that are going to come out that we're going to be in disbelief that these atrocities happen. And part of that is coming back to our divinity and our source, so that we can fully align to who we are and come forward to that. So I just wanted to bring that last message before I have to shortly depart, because I have a commitment at 12 o'clock, and just wanted to draw my greatest blessings to each and every one of you, what you shared, to each and every one of you that are listening, and just the hearts that we can connect, because I feel all of us are creating a new wave of leadership, that we can connect our hearts in love to shine to everything and beyond. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Michael.
oh, brother, love you. Thank you.
Many blessings.
You know, if nobody else has anything, I'd love to go a little bit deeper on what Michael was talking about regarding, you know, this idea of spiritual bypassing and everything, in regards to people who are new to this kind of work, who are maybe beginning to start confronting. They've recognized, like, okay, my life's not working for whatever reason, and they're ready to start getting to work. And yes, like, you know, I'm giving some extreme examples that happened with me. And a lot of the times I haven't been successful in overcoming a lot of the traumas that I felt, but by continuously committing to it. And that's why it's like, when we talk about tools, for me, the number one tool is, one, you make a decision, you make connecting to source your number one priority. And I know for me, that's what I had to do. I had to be like, okay, I don't like this environment that I'm in. I don't like the way that people are treating me. There's a million things wrong with this. But I know that if I connect to something greater than all of this, there's a chance that I might be able to find freedom. And so that decision was the first tool. I made a decision with such firm amplitude that no matter what happened, I already had it in the back of my mind that I'm going to keep returning to that place. So that was the first thing. Then the second thing is something that Zeus, you and I have talked about a lot, and that I feel is imperative for more people to learn about, practice, and get on par with, and that's heart-brain coherence. Essentially, these states of overcoming trauma and overcoming the parts of yourself that hold you back, it's through shining the light of your own consciousness. It's by being the light of your own consciousness that those states suddenly just don't have a place to exist in you. But the way that I've found to be able to access that point or that place with regularity and to be able to sustain it is through practicing heart-brain coherence every day. And when you are in a state of heart-brain coherence, there's no mistaking it. You know it. You know what it feels like. You're like, it brings everything back. And it's something we could do a whole episode on that alone. But that state is so paramount for men to start facing everything, and women for everybody to begin facing all our shadow and that holds us back. Because when we're in that state, we are source. We are that greater octave of energy expressing itself through human form. And from that place, we can objectively look at the situations and circumstances of our past life without being attached to them or afraid of them, and can instead look at them as like, wow, this is actually perfectly placed to get me to where I am now, where I'm realizing that I actually love life and the outer circumstances of life more than I could have ever imagined had I not been in a place of grounded heart-brain coherence.
So, Seth, as you said that, I'm going to be calling on a healing circle. I think all of us, including Michael, I think our next roundtable is going to be in about 2 weeks. So, what I'm proposing is on the Wednesday before on the Thursday or the Friday, that all of us come with a modality, a tool, a skill, and we will create a healing circle for all men and women that are interested in joining us. So, for my part, I will start off this healing circle on the Unity Conscious Meditation, which creates an incredible heart field, connects with Father Sky and Mother Earth, and then we'll offer it to whoever wants to go next. So for those that are listening, and I'm going to be speaking to all of you individually to think about what you would like to offer for this, and then we can start pushing this out on social media, and maybe create a whole tsunami of individuals that will join us either on YouTube Live or Facebook Live. And I'm proposing it to be free of charge, because as many people can be reached and be helped for this is going to be incredible value for all people. What do you guys think
Yeah,
Love it.
love it. I mean,
about that? So watch out for more information coming on the Healing Circle in about a week and a half or so.
Okay.
So I'm proposing to have some closing comments to kind of round this out now to healing the shadow, and as men suppressing our tools not to be seen, not to be heard. Any closing comments for anyone as we look at the top of the 2-hour mark?
Yeah, I would love to say to everybody listening and to everybody who's watching this, we're going through a time of collective incarceration, you could say, for the most part. And I know that many people feel alone and they feel isolated. And I know that feeling so well. We all do. But you're not. You're not alone. There's support. That's why these grassroots efforts of men like us are coming together to create circles like this. And we envision it becoming much greater. And we see others doing it too. So my advice is, don't wallow in the pity of your own self-isolation. Really, because you can, it's easy to do that, but find a way to connect with others, connect with yourself first, but connect with others at the same time, and keep doing that, and keep doing it with love in your heart and that willingness to want to create greater connection in your life and in the world. And life will put you in, it'll bring situations that will serve that.
Well said.
oh,
Yeah.
oh, look at it's on me, huh? Well, I saw the green thing around there. I just want to thank everyone for tuning in, and I just want to thank you, brothers, for coming together so consistently to create this space for us to air it out, to speak to what's alive within us, and to also relate that to you know, what's going on outside of us as well, which I just think it's an important way to navigate, looking at what's outside, what's inside, and then getting into that still space of observation, of calling on your divine, of recognizing that we're not all alone in this. And I think that's probably the more important thing that I'll focus on, especially in feeling compassion for some of my brothers who are deciding to seclude themselves right now. That, you know, go through your period of seclusion, but just know you can come out of it. That's not the end all be all. It's something to move through, not to put to the side, but to move through. And this is a group that wants to help with, again, not bypassing, but passing through. This is what we're all doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aloha.
Aloha.
I think it's important to be with your shadows as long as necessary. Be there as long as it takes. Be there with dedicated intention, with whatever you need to get you to the other side, with determination. Sometimes when things get so intense, it can feel like you just want to escape it for a little bit. And sometimes, you know, I've had to let that be okay for the moment, just so I could break away from the pattern that I'm in and come back to it. But the intention for me is always to come back to it. So whatever you're going through, whatever shadows, whatever feelings and emotions you're experiencing, maintain the intention, the utmost importance that you work through whatever it is that you're feeling. You transform whatever it is that you're feeling. Be with whatever it is that you're feeling. In whatever capacity you can at that time, just make sure that the intention is to resolve it completely. When you do that, you'll notice that the things that you're dealing with become less and less. They become lighter and lighter. And it doesn't mean all your problems instantly go away, but your problems tend to change. Your learnings increase and your learnings deepen. And the wisdom that's shown to you is just only expands. And it's important to keep your cup empty so that it may be constantly filled in every moment. And when you do that, being in a combination of that presence, you will learn everything that you need to know about how to move through the other side.
Oh, Brendan, beautifully, beautifully said.
Yeah.
For my part, you know, this work can suck sometimes, and it feels heavy. But all I would ask is to find the joy in each and every moment, because we all have a choice, as Brendan had said earlier. We can make this really, really tough work, or we can make this really, really easy work. It really is up to us. So as difficult as whatever work and shadow you're trying to heal, there is always a perspective that we can all walk into to make this work joyous and pleasant and full of laughter. Because after all, it's our humanity that binds us and makes us real.
Oh,
David, any last comments?
I just want to take Ezraiah up on his offer to all of us get together at our earliest possibility. We've got some land in Arizona if that works for you all.
awesome.
I'd also like to tell the viewers, and just to share again, that each and every moment can be a shadow embracing moment. And it probably is. If you've set the dial to soul's growth, if you've set your dial to, I'm going to be the highest vibration that I can possibly be, then every moment that's presented to you actually is an opportunity to show that. And I mentioned bypass earlier. One of the ways that you'll know that you're not bypassing is, for instance, when you are tapped into divinity, when you are tapped into source, when you see those hurdles around you getting less and less, like Brandon mentioned, and when you see those situations around you not becoming so stressful anymore and so anger filled, but more of something you can just kind of like laugh about and go, "Whoa, that's interesting," then you know that you're on the path. A lot of what we talked about today, I will caution the new observer, might sound like bypass, but it is a direct magnetic source to your own salvation that is so beautiful and so profound. It's unbelievable how powerful it is. It's actually beyond our imagination how powerful Source is. When we allow that to flow through us, is when the magic really happens. And I love you all, brothers. Thank you.
Love you. Oh.
Mhm. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Brendan, Azariah, Seth, and David. I love you all immensely. Have a blessed day. And as always, make love your goal.
Love you, brother.
Love you.